Hi, I'm Drea. Welcome to our second Go and Grow video, How to Revive a Sad Plant. How do you tell if your plant is in distress? Look for some clues. Does your plant wilt too soon after it's been watered? Is the leaf color dull compared to a healthy plant? Does it have no new growth, or is the new growth stunted? Here, these new leaves have popped up, but they will never mature. Or is it dropping leaves that aren't very old? These are young leaves that have come off. And also search for spots, holes, and other damage that may be caused by disease or pests. Before you go any further, make sure to do some research. Make sure that you are providing the adequate care of water, soil, and light conditions for your species of plant. Refer to our first video, Plant Care Basics, to learn more. Let's start by tackling some potting issues. I have two plants here. The first one is a dwarf umbrella tree, or a Schefflera arbicola, and the soil is way too compacted. It's hard and it's dry. I actually suspect that the wrong type of soil was used. I think that this is garden dirt and not proper potting mix. You could also look into issues: is your water running out of your pot too quickly, not holding any moisture and it's drying out too fast? Or the roots coming out of the bottom of your pot? Or is your plant trying to escape? Here I have an aloe plant, and it has a mother plant that is trying to leap out of the pot, and it has produced a lot of babies. So this one is going to do well from being dumped out and separated and repotted into probably 4 pots total. Let's get started with that. I'll start with the aloe plant. I'm just going to dump this guy out. And it's nice and dry, so it's a lot easier to work with. And I'm going to give it a shake here. And just kind of, you don't have to be too gentle. You can just kind of pull those roots right apart. So I'm going to plant these in, this guy in one pot, and you know that it was kind of pushing itself out, so I'm going to plant it, that soil line, a lot higher up. And then these little babies I'm going to put in their own little pot. Well, just as I had thought, this pot was potted up with garden soil and not potting mix. And that was causing a problem, causing it to not thrive very well because the soil was so compacted. When I looked at the root structure, I only saw the large woody root system and none of the small fibrous roots, which was a clear indication that this plant was in distress. Next, I'm going to dust the leaves of this plant. There's a thick layer of a dust, and you don't want that to happen because there are stoma, which is pores in the plant's leaf, which allows for gas exchange to happen, which is necessary for photosynthesis. So having a big dusty plant is kind of like having a plant with a cold. Next, we're going to talk about plants that are overgrown. Here I have a ZZ plant, a Zamiococcus zamiofolia, that is a little too leggy and top heavy. So I'm going to give it some support with garden stakes. I'm going to put in 2, one on each side, across from each other. And you can buy plant-specific ties and string, but I'm going to cheat and just use green pipe cleaner. I'm going to pull this guy up a little bit, and wrap it around just to give it some vertical support. And that should keep it looking a little happier for longer. Here I have a cane begonia that has gotten a lot more leggy than I would like it to be. It is very, very tall. And so I'm going to trim it back to kind of promote some more growth on the bottom. And when you're pruning, you want to only prune about 1/3 of a plant at a time, otherwise it can go into shock. So I'm going to find some good spots where I'm going to cut back. I think I'm going to cut one of them down a bit, and I might remove a few canes altogether. So right here, I have a new leaf starting here. There's like a little leaf joint. So I'm going to trim right above that so I have a nice clean cut that looks attractive. And what's great is these parts that I'm trimming off, I can start rooting these in water and grow more plants. This one, I don't have any leaf joints down, so I'm going to trim this cane all the way down, which might help promote more growth at the base of the plant. I got a twist tie in here I need to trim. A few twist ties. And this guy here, also not a whole lot of, there's no leaf coming down here, so I'm going to trim this one down all the way as well, which will help promote growth lower down on the plant. So we'll see that bush out a little bit more. Now, sometimes you gotta cut more than a third of a plant. I have a Schefflera arbicola, the dwarf umbrella tree here, that has been in need of a life support. It's really unsightly in the middle here. I have a lot of growth on the top. I have some fresh new growth on the bottom, and then this strange middle section. So I am going to chop this all the way back down to the new growth to promote this new growth, and so that it's not so leggy. And this is extremely woody, and we'll get that trimmed up here for you in a second. So now I have my plant chopped back, and I think that we're going to really see it revitalize here. I'm going to give it a little extra boost with some fertilizer. When using fertilizer, I prefer to use water-soluble fertilizer that you can find at any store. When getting a multi-purpose fertilizer, be careful that you're reading the instructions carefully. There will be a dose for outdoor plants versus indoor plants. The indoor dosage is far, far weaker than an outdoor dose. You'll also want to use fertilizer if you see that your plant has a dull leaf color or stunted growth. This may be due to a nutrient deficiency, which is a great indication that you might want to give it a kick with fertilizer. The last thing we're going to cover is disease and insects. To tell if your plant has disease or the presence of an insect, take a look at your leaf. Here I have a begonia leaf that is dimpled, and I have a silver squiggly line in here. That indicates to me that I may have the presence of an insect called leaf miners. To inspect your plant, you'll want to pick up your plant and look closely at the bottom of the plant and look throughout the leaves, see if there's any webbing, any insects that you might actually see, some small, they would be on the undersides of your leaves often, or at the joint where the leaf stem meets the stalk of your plant. For disease, look for some discoloration, fluffy, cloudy, white material that might be a presence of a fungus. And if you see anything that might tick these boxes, the first thing to do is to grab a clear plastic bag and bag up your plant. You want to isolate your plant so that you don't infect any of the other plants that you may have in your home. If your plant lives in a spot where it gets a lot of sun, you'll want to remove it from that area because you don't want your bagged up plant to kind of become a really hot greenhouse, which might cause another issue. So after that, you'll want to do some research. Look into, are there specific ailments that are common with your type of plant? Or you could look it up in a book. The library has a lot of great resources. Or you could call the Cass County Extension. They have a horticultural office, and they are our local houseplant experts. Thank you for joining us for this Go and Grow video on how to revive a sad houseplant. Happy growing!